Well, I think it actually has to do with, does the original worship contribute to the culture? What we're trying to paint is a sense of a permission giving structure, the freedom to go into creative endeavors, while also realizing that we hold the scriptures in really high esteem. We're trying to balance what we call intellectual young church. We want to be deep and meaningful and profound in the way we think about things, but at the same time, we want to be relevant and current.
Hey guys, Frank Berry here with another episode of Modern Church Leader. I'm here with Tony again for the second time, Mr. Tony Fernandez. Okay, just remind everybody, in case, I'm sure this actual episode will get a lot of new viewers just because of the topic, but remind everybody what church you're the leader at and how long you've been doing it and where you're located.
I've been in a church called the Broward Church in Broward County, Florida, for the last 11 years on staff in all different areas, but been kind of like the lead pastor guy, lead minister here for the last now 4.5 years or 5 years.
Come on, crushing it out there.
Thanks.
So
Yeah, we're really excited.
Hopefully people watched the first episode, which was a blast, talking about all kinds of things, org structure and leadership and team design and all this kind of stuff. It was a ton of fun. But today we're going to talk about launching your first worship album.
Yeah, we're super excited.
I think you're more excited about this topic than all the other stuff.
I don't know. I'm actually I'm a musician through and through. I'm a kind of I love the art side of it. So every time I get a chance to blend the artistic with the spiritual, which really they're one and the same, but to me that's I love being in that world when those two concentric circles kind of meet and I'm right there in the middle of it. That's when I feel most alive. So yeah, you might. I certainly love talking about the kind of quote unquote business side of the church, but I really love this discussion.
That's awesome. Well, give us some of your background. So you mentioned just in our own chats that you used to lead worship. But when did you start getting into music?
Yeah, when I was younger, I like the story of everybody else. My dad had a guitar in the garage or whatever. I picked it up. A buddy of mine was playing guitar, and at the time I was trying to learn what it really meant to be all things to all people in my Christian context. And so I grew up in New York City. Raised more urban than suburban, and so didn't really think about playing the guitar as something that a Puerto Rican guy from the city would do. But when I kind of related to this guy I was just trying to help him understand Christianity. He's a friend of mine, and I saw he played guitar, so I picked up the guitar from the garage and I started playing it myself and learning it, and he showed me how to play a little bit. I played Green Day like everyone else, and American Pie and whatever, and basically that kind of got me to start thinking about music more and how do we think about music and Christ and music and our relationship with God. And so from pretty much the beginning of my Christianity, I've always been one of the worship guys. Or I guess ever since that point. I come from a really traditional church. So there have been times when our church was only, voices only, which, was kind of strange and trying to navigate that. And so it's cool to see an elevation from those roots to kind of launching a brand new worship album. I'm really excited to see the way that
that's about as opposite as you can get.
Yeah, I think so.
Right?
I think so.
It's a worship album with actual instrements and
I didn't mention this is all a cappella. I'm just kidding.
Oh wait. We're gonna have to cut this show short. From that moment though, you kind of went on that journey, and so you became kind of a worship leader, whether paid or whatever, but like you started, leading worship, and was guitar your instrument? Is that, or did you branch out and learn to play other
Yeah,
instruments?
like most people who do worship, I didn't know music a lot, and so it kind of led me to the place of going, okay, I'm going to study it. And so I took several classes in college, music theory and all that sort of stuff,
Okay.
just to kind of get my brain around it. Everybody in college knows how to play a little bit of piano, so I know how to play piano. And if you're the guy who leads worship, you play everything. So
Right.
so you're a little bit of drums. You can, because someone might not show up, so you fill in where you're needed. But
Yeah.
yeah, like right now, not now, but before I started leading the church, I was the main kind of upfront worship leader, guitar in hand, singing that whole thing.
Right. Right.
So
And I love that you mentioned in the last episode, when you started leading the church as the lead pastor, like you were leading worship too, and you would just take the guitar, hand it to somebody, and start preaching.
that's right. Yeah,
Lead worship,
yeah.
and then do the lesson.
Yeah, well, someone took it off me. It'd be like because the microphone clipped. They had to. It was very bizarre. The whole
Yeah.
thing was terrible. Yeah, every
Yeah.
once in a while, I'd like put on a jacket. I'm like, I'm a new person. But yeah, the feeling is, because for me, as I mentioned, it was really traditional, and so, but I knew we needed to start when someone new comes into the picture, or you can't blow things up. Everyone's tendency, especially young people, is to like, let's go in and blow everything up. And I think, we were talking offline, but like you only have a certain pool of trust. And so once that's gone, it's really hard to recover it.
Right.
And so for me, I'm like, I'm going to work within the system. Like, I'm just going to, hey, if this church is just going to sing a cappella music, I'm going to do it. And so I was up there like, dun, 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 da, 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 like whatever you need me to do, I was going to do it.
Right.
And then kind of slowly begin to build trust. And as that happened, then I could go, okay, what if we added a guitar here? Would that increase and allow our worship to be more connective and more, and would people be more encouraged by it? And would a new generation kind of get a sense of what it feels like to be close to God? And everyone loves the music of their youth, and so
Right.
it's kind of like we needed some more music of youth,
Right.
And so I worked within that system, and then eventually kind of developed a band, and put a group together. After I did that, then as I mentioned before, I kind of had leading worship while then preaching when I started leading the church. And then finally I was like, I just need to hire somebody to really take it on, and take this somewhere where it could never go before, and never can go where I was. The musician I have now is like, if I'm a 5 on the scale, he's a 9. He's fantastic as a musician.
Right.
And so now I was able to kind of broaden my horizons a little bit, and not just think about Sunday morning, but think about, okay, could we use our talents to really edify the church with giving new music to the church? And so that's when the project of writing songs began.
Yeah. And how did that, so you had that thought somewhere, and I'm sure in collaboration with your worship pastor that you've got now. And how long have you had your worship pastor? When did you guys hire that role?
I want to say 2018.
Okay. So yeah, was that 3 years, 4
Yeah,
years?
3 years. Yeah, something like that.
And so along
it's hard
the way,
because the pandemic,
Yeah. Does that year count?
No, it's like it was 2019, 2021.
Yeah. So then this idea of like writing, like what's the journey? Yeah. How did you go from, wherever at that point all the way to like you've now released your first worship album? Like give us the journey of what sparked the idea, and how'd you get started on it, and how'd it go?
So we worship a creator. Like one of the things that's important for my own Christianity is that true fact.
Mm-hmm.
I worship a creator, and I'm born in his image, and I was formed from the dust to be a creator, and that's who I'm supposed to be. And all of us create things, whether you build a table or you start a business, like you're a creator, or you're a worship leader, you're a creator. And so I had this urge to like create. And I think that comes by way of the Holy Spirit. And so I'm thinking, hey, how do we create in this? Related to that is this, okay, so I have this urge to create, but I'm also thinking, look at our church. When you look at the scriptures, you see like there were seasons where people wrote songs. Moses wrote songs, and Miriam and Hannah, and these songs are like, they speak to the moment. And I looked around and I thought about the moment that we're in the context of my church and my season and where I'm at. Like, do I have anything that tells the story of this time?
Right.
That tells the heart or speaks to the church and goes, hey, this is what we need to remember and this is what we need to hold on to. There's something beautiful about the memory of songs. It's just, you
Mm-hmm.
can listen to a song from 1994 and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I know every one of those
All the
words,
lyrics. Yeah, you're like, how
like
do I still remember this?
it's crazy, right? But there's something that happens that's beautiful just
Yeah.
about and so I'm like, God's a creator. We tell these stories in the scriptures that lead to songs being written to remind the people of where they were. And then what galvanizes the church to go, I want to be a part of the Broward church. Like
Mm-hmm.
what's uniquely Broward and what can, and so for all those reasons, we were like, all right, let's just get to work. Let's get to work. Let's just do it.
Right.
Let's come together with all the ideas that we have. Me, the worship leader, and his fiance at the time, and let's just see if we can write. Let's see what
Right.
we can do.
Okay.
And God basically produced some really really cool music.
And so you got to like writing original music, like
Yeah,
from scratch. Had
yeah,
you ever
totally.
written before? Had your worship leader ever written before?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, if you're a musician, you've written, right? Like it's
okay.
just kind of what happens. I've written songs for like conferences and stuff like that, and
Yep.
but I don't think I ever wrote for the season.
Right.
Like I wrote for something, but I didn't write with the thought, hey, what's happening right now? And so in this whole last set of songs that we just released, a lot of them speak to kind of like, hey, we're struggling. Like we're struggling and God like takes difficult times and makes them beautiful. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the spirit of a lot of the songs that we're singing because
Right.
we're going through it.
Right.
And
Right.
I
Yeah.
suspect
As is that like everybody, right? Like
exactly,
the whole
exactly.
world is going through a struggle.
Exactly. And we're also dealing with like a sense of postmodernism and like what do we think about truth and what do we think about the authority of Jesus and this is the world we're living in. We're all figuring that stuff out right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so man, if we put pen to paper to start thinking about that, what would we come up with?
Right.
And so yeah, the first song that we wrote is it's called the words of life, and it comes from the passage where in John chapter 6, where Jesus is looking at Peter after he basically everyone's left him, and he turns over to Peter and he goes, do you want to go also? The whole crowd, 5,000 people plus have left him, and he's by himself and just with his disciples, and he's like, are you going to go? And he goes, where else would I go? You have the words of life. And for
Mm-hmm.
us, it was like, we're in the middle of a difficult time, just like Peter was, just like the disciples were. It seems like people are abandoning the faith day in and day out. It seems
Right.
like there's a global pandemic and people are leaving the planet, like literally dying, and there's so much pain, and the question is posed to us, are you going to go too?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to leave? And for us, we were like, we need to write something that says, where else would I go? You have the words of life. I trust in you.
Right.
And so that's where it was birthed, things like that. And so, yeah, we're really excited about a lot of those tunes.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, the journey of it, and then you're getting into writing, and kind of the why behind it is really cool to kind of hear. And I don't know, people listening, may or may not have gone through this. Like we hear, right? We listen to worship music, we sing at church, and we listen
Mm,
to the worship music on the radio or whatever. But going through like producing it, kind of where it comes from, is just cool to hear like that. And it wasn't commercial either, right? Like you're
yeah,
doing it, for your church and for the people there, and but you took it out and put it into the world too, right? Which is got to be a little scary, right?
yeah,
It's not
totally.
just like my church right here that knows me, and we kind of put the song here, but I put it out into the universe. Um, like, talk to us about that. Like, so you went from first song. How many songs did you create? How do you
So
put the
we
music
we now
together?
have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We now have 10 songs
Okay.
that are Broward Church originals or Broward Worship originals. So the process there's really like three levels of it. There's the original writing. Actually there's like four levels. The original writing, the production. So you write these words you write these melodies, and then you have to put some music to them so that they speak to what you're writing. So that's the second level. So after you finish that part of it, then you kind of pass it off to someone who can really, what we call, produce it, who can think it all the way through and make it like, okay, I want this sound here and that crash of the cymbal there and that guitar lick there, and so someone builds it that way, and that's our worship leader and a friend of ours named Fernando, who's also part of the church in Broward. He's a professional musician and has been in the music industry for quite a long time. He's actually on tour right now with Maverick City Music, so he's he's kind of in that world. So we take it to the production level. After we finish the production, then we have to like actually do the vocal recording, and in today's day and age, you need a video, because if you don't have a video, it does
absolutely
it dies. And so then it kind of goes to the next level of multimedia production. So and at that point, we have a great team here, so they were able to kind of put together like look and feel and design and flavors of how we wish to do it. And then it goes to releasing branding, like releasing promotion and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And that's why I'm here, to promote the album. go to Broward Church, Broward Worship on all of your streaming platforms, and you'll find it. Broward Worship.
Yeah. Is it just Broward Worship? You'll find it.
Yeah, just type Broward Worship in YouTube, and you'll find the music.
Yeah, I mean, clearly we want to promote it, so everybody
bring it on.
Go check out.
Everyone right now, check it out. Yeah.
And you guys put it on YouTube too, right?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. So that's really, we're getting many more views, and we're a relatively small church. Like before the pandemic, like maybe 750 in attendance, give or take, and. So even that's kind of like how do we get this going? We think we have something to show the world, but it's we don't have any mass promotion.
It's not a 10,000 person mega church with that kind of audience, and so it's a different. I mean, I wonder how many 700-800 member churches produce original worship, like an album.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know enough about that world. But kind of doing it out of the church, which is common as churches get bigger, or maybe not common, but you definitely see it, especially in like more modern churches. Like they get to a certain size, and then they've got great worship, and then they produce an album, and it's like a thing. It's like this engine that churches have, but usually it's larger churches that you see.
Totally, and part of it is like, in addition to being a blessing to churches, it also, or a blessing to ourselves, we hope that it's a blessing to the people who listen to it. Maybe there's, and the thing that poetry is really good for is it gives you words for things you couldn't think of.
Right.
That feeling, but you just couldn't put the words to it. And so that's what we're hoping to do, is just basically give some people some words. And so the production has been challenging, and the timeline is challenging, and thinking about how best to release them, and whether release what platform to release them on, and how to do all that, and all that stuff requires a lot of marketing and strategy for marketing. And again, as a 700 member church, give or take, we don't have all the money for professional marketing, and so we're doing it like an indie band. There's no big industry behind us or big company behind us supporting us. It's just the those of us who know what we're doing at least a little bit, trying to put it all together.
I mean, that's cool though, right? Like you get to like it's hard, right? From the way, like it's hard work, and it's probably a lot of extra hours, and it's not anybody's day job per se, like all these things, but it's that sort of a labor of love, and you get to really learn the craft through all of this, and you'll probably learn a bunch of amazing things by having to do the hard work of pulling it all off on your own. And then, hopefully you'll do another one, right? And you'll have learned a bunch of things, and, you'll kind of keep building from there. What's been like the most challenging part of all this? Is it just the fact that it's a lot of work?
Yeah, we're not really shy on the idea that this is just a ton of work. I think the most difficult thing is when you feel like you have something really precious, and you're trying to figure out the best way to send it out to the world. And it's not a fear. Like if people don't like it, then amen. Like there's 900 other people you can listen to, And nowadays the production level between a Hillsong and a Broward church doesn't need to be all that different. It's the amount of money and the amount of resources it takes to and the amount of people power it takes to produce great things is, but you often just don't have the marketing arm to do it. And so I've been telling our people, we have to be okay with, with no views, with 100 views on a video, because it's not for, like, remember, the goal isn't to become famous here. The goal isn't to chase cool. The goal is to build something because we are made in the image of our Creator, to show the world. I mean, to show, like, our church what it was like in this season, to tell the story. Like, that's really what we're after, and anything else is a cherry on the top.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, talk to me about, like, you've produced 10 songs. I think you said. Did you produce them all at once and kind of bundle them and release it, or did you just one by one, as you put it out into the world?
So we're calling it an album, even though it's not an album. It's, in fact, 10 singles.
Okay.
The reason we're doing it that way is because we don't have, like I mentioned before, we don't have the clout of a big, like when Kanye drops Donda, everyone's like, let's listen to this 3 hours of Donda,
Right.
like if we were to drop 9 songs in a row, who knows, like, so
Right.
what we're trying to do is just trickle. And we also don't have the manpower to produce all that same music at the same time. And so we're kind of doing it like, if you ever been to one of those restaurants, it's like, they give you food as you order it. That's it. That's what we are. Like, the second one is done, we release it. And we just let it go.
And how have you released it? How do you do where do you release it? How do you promote it? What have you learned in that process?
So we have, we hop on every platform that we have a relationship with. So, like, Frank, I love you, but I'm using you in some ways. Like every opportunity I have to get on it, I just hop on it. I'm like, if there's, I know a couple of worship leaders who have a larger following than I do, so we use it there. Obviously, all the people in our band are putting it on their IG. The church is promoting it. The church has a larger IG than Broward Worship does. The church has a larger YouTube channel than the Broward Worship page does. So we promote it there, but we're starting from scratch. And so, it's like, I don't know, we're just trying to slowly develop this. And we know that, it's only been, a couple of months. And so we haven't, like, we know the traction comes as we continue to release, and we continue to release, and hopefully,
like longevity.
Exactly. And we're in it for the long haul, because our goal isn't become, like, let this music penetrate the Christian market tomorrow. Like, that's not our goal. And if that was our goal, then we would be very discouraged.
Right.
And so, because I think we have a good why, we're able to navigate through some of the difficulties. But yeah, so promotion-wise, we just use all the platforms. And I think that's really if you're a minister or if you're a worship leader, like, you have to realize that, like, people stand above you. And my goal is to try to get on their shoulders so I can use what they have to be able to bring the message I'm trying to bring to the world. And if I can do that, then maybe someone will hear it who needed it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you got to get your buddy in the church that's out with Maverick to, send some shout outs or something.
Yeah. I mean, here's the only thing, right? Is that even those things you got to be really cautious with, because does it lose his ability? Like we've even talked about that, like we have a buddy who's out with Maverick. If he drops them a CD, like those old school, like whatever, does that change his ability to minister, connect with them, love them? Like, does it seem like he's just using them?
Right.
Like, or do we have to wait? Do we have to just? And so even that, like, my advice for them was just like, don't even bring it up. Right. Like, just leave it alone. Don't even bring it up. And if God allows it to happen by way of conversation, then share it. But we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, you don't want to use relationships, like you
exactly.
Gotta be careful about
that.
I
mean, you want to use relationships, but you got to be careful how you
when the opening is right, and
yeah,
and all
exactly.
Things. Yeah, no, I totally. Like, you're 10 songs in, what have you learned? What have you enjoyed the most, learned about doing this?
Yeah.
When you go to the 11th song.
We did our first Sunday, it was 2 weeks ago, where we only played original music.
Wow.
For the church. It was a pretty cool moment. Our goal is that 50% of all the songs we sing will be originals.
Yeah.
Long term. That's the goal.
How's the church responding to that?
Oh, So to me, that's what keeps me going. You ask the question, like, what gets me to 11? It's the fact that the church was like, this is amazing.
They're
Like
eating it
these
up.
are
Like they
these are
want number
our
11.
yeah these are our songs. These
Yeah.
are our songs. They tell our story.
Right.
And so, they love it. They
Yeah.
love it. We had some people who were visiting on Sunday morning who just were remarked, just like, I never heard any of these songs, and they're all so beautiful. Like they're all just so beautiful.
Right.
And the person who was like bringing their friend to church was able to be like, yeah, they're from our church here. You're not going to hear them anywhere else until
Right.
they go anywhere else, but they're from this church.
I mean,
And
I'm gonna need all the I don't know what I need the lyrics and the sheet music and like all the things
yeah.
so that I can send them to our guys, so we'll start singing them in San Diego too.
Come on, man. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it.
No, that's amazing. Do you find that the church, just as you're saying that, does it build confidence in the church, like in the members, and like I want to bring my friends to be a part of this, to hear this? Like, is that like a thing that you're
Yeah.
starting to see?
Well, I think it actually has to do with, does the original worship, contribute to the culture?
Right.
And then the culture ultimately is what drives or pushes people away. And I would say 100%, without a doubt, it contributes to the culture of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Like our culture, what we're trying to paint is a sense of a permission giving structure, the freedom to go into creative endeavors, while also realizing that we hold the scriptures in really high esteem,
Right.
and God's sovereignty in really high esteem. And so for us, we're trying to balance what we call intellectual young church. Is like, we want to be like deep and meaningful and profound in the way we think about things, but at the same time, we want to be like relevant and current. And so, yeah, I think what our church is, the culture of the church has been what's been a source of evangelistic effort,
Right.
as opposed to just the worship. And I'm sure the worship has
And the
something to do
worship is
with it,
part of
but
it, though. No, I hear what
exactly.
you're saying. Like, and it's part of it in that it's like it is relevant and it is new and current and those things, and then it gives the people that go to church there like something to talk about too, right?
Hmm.
Like when somebody's like, "Oh wow, I love this stuff," and they're like, "Oh yeah, like you know, the guy singing right there like wrote that song, like it's
Yeah,
original,"
exactly.
and like there's and in that way, it's as relevant as you can get, right? It's as like
Yeah.
current as it can get, and it's exciting for the. I mean, I think as you described it, right? Like the church, the members there got to be excited just about the fact that their church is doing something like this. Like it's
Hmm.
cool, and it's fun. It's like that's my church.
Yeah, and
So
I think we need more poets. Like we need more artists in the church. Like we
yeah,
need more creators. We need more people who do things like that. It's
right.
every like I traveled to Europe a couple of years ago, and you go to these cathedrals, and they're spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
You go, wow, they were, whatever you believe about the doctrine on all these things, like is neither here nor there. But the point is that all these were built in like with God in mind,
Right.
and you go, wow, like church has like created cathedrals and some of the most beautiful music ever written was written with God in mind. And
Right.
and today, you can kind of we've kind of swung the pendulum in some ways, and some of the stuff is just kind of hokey, and I love some of the stuff, but it's a little like, that's why I love things like The Chosen. Like The Chosen is awesome. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
movie, and like, wow, the Christian world is trying to produce things that are
Right.
beautiful again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. Well, I mean, as we wrap it up, like if someone's watching that's like, man, I want to do this kind of thing, right? Like I'm inspired. I've been thinking about it. Like, what would you tell them? Like, how do they get started? How do they take a step forward in doing something like this?
Yeah, I think the first question is like, what model are you going to use? If you're going to build it from your church, if you're going to build it as kind of like a maverick, like you're going to go away from the church and do it, that works too. Like, how are you going to do it? Realize that if you have the church's backing, you have at least a little bit of a platform, which is very
Mm-hmm.
encouraging. But then you have the necessary element of working with the ministers to make sure that the words are
Right.
right. And so if you have a good relationship with them, it might be a perfect balance. So what I would recommend is decide what which direction you're going to go. Are you going to be a solo artist? Are you going to work with the church? Like, where are you going to go with that? And then after that, just start writing songs. And then after you write songs, start sending them to people you trust who will tell you no or yes. Who will say, this is great or this is not so good. And be okay with the critical feedback.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get feedback that is you see it just seems critical in nature, but in fact it will help you become a better writer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's it. Just start writing.
Yeah.
And, choose your lane where you're going to go, but start writing, and put it out there for people to start giving you feedback. Massive. Well, Tony, this has been awesome, dude. So
Broward Worship.
Broward
Worship, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, the whole thing.
Which channel have you found to be the most active? Like, do you have any?
Gosh, I don't know. I'm actually not the analytic guy. So
right.
On the Broward Worship page, my assumption is I don't know. My assumption would be Spotify, but it's probably YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Please go subscribe. Broward Worship on
please.
All. Just go to
all of them. Just do everything.
Subscribe. Support the church and the work they're doing. Even if you don't like the music, be a fan.
Yeah. If you don't like the music, you can send some feedback.
There you go.
Yeah.
Tony, this has been awesome, man. Thanks for coming on again.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for watching. We'll be back next week with another episode of Modern Church Leader. See you guys.